Hi guys, we're gonna do our second lesson on decimals this week. This one is called, and it will be on page 5, decimal operations. When I say operations, I'm not talking about medical operations. It's not like we're talking about taking someone's appendix out or something. In math, when we say operations, we're talking about adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So you're going to go, and after your pink sheet, or after the work we did on rounding decimals, you're going to place page 5, which I've attached with this post. And we are going to talk about adding and subtracting decimals today. Now, adding and subtracting decimals is something that is in the 5th grade Common Core. But with school getting out so early and you missing several months of school, some of you may have already done this and it will be a review. Some of you may not have already done this, so you're learning it for the first time. Either way, it's pretty simple because adding and subtracting decimals both have the same rule. Line up the decimals. Subtracting. Line up the decimals. So that's kind of nice. We're going to do an addition problem first, and I'm going to explain as I show you the example problem. Then we're going to get a chance to do some problems on our own. So write this down in your notes or in your spiral notebook. 42.38 plus 4.8. Now, I am going to line the decimals up. So I'm going to start with the first number and write that down, 42.38. And if I'm lining up the decimals, that other decimal number needs to be right there so that these two decimals are lined up. So that 4.8, I'm going to put 4 on the whole side here, where all the whole numbers are, and then 8 on the right-hand side. Now, we have, so I can go like this, put the addition sign, we have a blank spot here. Now, in elementary, maybe they'd say, just put a 0 in the blank spot. But I want to teach you the math words, and the math word is annex. Annex means add a 0 in a blank spot. So we're going to annex a 0 here. Okay, now I can add this up just like I did when I was adding up whole numbers. I can say 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry the 1. But see now where my decimals are, I'm going to keep those lined up, put it right there. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and 4 and nothing is 4. So the answer is 47.18, or 47 18/100ths. Okay? So that's how we do adding, and subtracting is the same thing because we're also going to line up the decimals. So I'm going to say 58.5 minus 9.27. So go ahead and write that down. And then, you know, with subtracting, does order matter when you subtract? I know when I'm adding, order doesn't matter, right? 2 plus 3 is 5. If I switch them around, 3 plus 2 is 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. They're interchangeable. But with subtracting, order matters. 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 minus 3 is -1. You'll learn that later. So order matters. When we're subtracting, that first number goes on top. So I'm going to say 58.5. And I want to line those decimals up. And now I have 9.27. So I'm going to say 9.27. Subtract. What am I going to do in this empty spot here? You guys remember? I'm going to annex a 0. Now, I hope I don't have to tell you this, but, you know, you never know, so I'm going to say it anyway. But a few years ago, I had a whole lot of 6th graders coming in, and they were kind of doing subtraction like this the first few weeks of school. Okay, 0 minus 7, that doesn't work. So I'll just go 7 minus 0, and they'd put a 7 there. Oh, no, no, no. It's always the top minus the bottom. If I cannot subtract, if the top number is smaller than the bottom, I have to borrow. Remember that? I know you guys have been home for 6 months, but try to clean out those pipes and remember, we got to borrow. So that 5, I'm going to borrow from that, and it becomes a 4, and I make this a 10. Now I can subtract. 10 minus 7 is 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. Keep that decimal lined up, just like we did in addition. 8 minus 9 is 1. Did you go, no? You can't say 8 minus 9 and switch it to 9 minus 8. We again need to borrow. Okay, so I make that a 4, and this becomes an 18. 18 minus 9 is 9. 4 minus nothing's in there is 4. And I can subtract, or I can circle my answer. Now, we are going to do some practice problems. I'm going to practice them with you, and you are going, and I'm going to pause, give you a minute to do the problem, and then see if you can get the right answer. In addition to that, I am going to go over some word problems as well, because you're going to find word problems on your worksheet that's homework tonight. So go down to the bottom of your page, okay, where it says now you try. And I want you to make 2 lines so that you have space for 3 problems, okay? So I'll make this big for a minute. Do you see how I have room for 3 problems, okay? So on the first one, and I'm going to tell you the problem and you're going to try it on your own. We're going to do this problem. 78.9 minus 55.779. Okay, now I want you to try that. What number goes on the top? The first number, right? 78.9. Line those decimals up. See if you can get that right answer, and then I'm going to go over it with you. Go. Are you done? If you're not done, you can pause it. But I'm going to go ahead and start this problem. You put the 78.9 on the top. We lined up those decimals, so 55 over here, 779, and guess what? We had to annex 2 zeros this time, okay? And a few kids were having some problems today with the idea of borrowing this many times over. So if I have 2 zeros, I'm going to have to borrow from 9, make that a 10, but I still need to borrow to get this 0. So I'm going to borrow from the 10, make that a 9, and now this is a 10. Now we're done borrowing, or I hope so. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 7 is 2. 8 minus 7 is 1. Keep those decimals lined up. 8 minus 5 is 3. 7 minus 5 is 2. So the answer is 23.21. How'd you guys do? Okay. You ready to try an addition problem? And if you need to stop and go over this again, that's what I would suggest that you do. We're going to try an addition problem. So we're going to do 73 plus 48.7. And the first thing I want to do is remind you what we learned yesterday. 73 doesn't have a decimal. How can I line up these numbers? How can I line up decimals when one of the numbers doesn't have a decimal? Well, remember we said if there is no decimal, we can always assume that that decimal is at the end. So this is actually 73 with a decimal at the end, right? We don't need the decimal. 73 is a whole number. But if I'm looking at lining up decimals, I can go ahead and put that in there. Now I can line up my decimals. 48.7, okay? I need to annex a 0, and now I can add 0 plus 7, keep my decimals lined up. 3 plus 8, carry it. 7 plus 1 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The answer is 121.7. I hope you paused it. I didn't give you much time to work. I don't know what to do. I'm like trying to figure out how to be an online teacher. All right, now I want to talk about word problems, because if there was a job where you could just sit in a cubicle and do worksheets all day, of course a math teacher would love it. But that's not the reality. We learn math to use in the real world, which means they're word problems. So we're going to do one together, and then you're going to do one on your own. And this might be tricky because I've got to get it to fit in here. Okay. Sorry. Nope, still not all the way in. Here we go. There we go. I think I've got it all in there now. Jerry bought 6.95 pounds of cherry and lime jelly beans for his birthday party. If 1.75 pounds were cherry flavored, how many pounds were lime flavored? So I have to think, do I add or subtract here? Jerry bought 6.95 pounds of cherry and lime jelly beans. So that's how much of both, the cherry and lime. If 1.75 pounds were cherry, so that means some were cherry and I got to figure out the lime. So the total minus one part equals the other part. This is where you can go to page 1 in your notes and you can look at keywords in math and figure out if you're having a hard time figuring out whether it's adding or subtracting. But in this case, it's subtracting. So I'm going to go 6.95 minus 1.75. And when I do that work, subtracting, okay. Does this 0 matter? No. If zeros are on the end, either on the right or left, they don't really matter. This 0 or 0.5 is the same as 5. Does that 0 really matter? No. Okay. Does this 0 matter? Yeah, that 0 is in between numbers and decimals. So that does matter. Does this 0 matter? No, because it's on the far end. So that does not matter. Okay. So this 0, you could just say 5.2. Or I don't really care if you keep it 5.20. But don't forget, we're working on a word problem, so we need to label. I need to know 5.20 what? Well, 5.20 pounds. Okay? So now I want you to try this one on your own. Okay? Paige was measuring how much taller she got over 2 years. Okay, she's measuring how much taller she got over 2 years. See how I repeat the problem sometimes? All right, I understand that. Let's go on. In the first year, she grew 4.62 centimeters. In the second year, she grew 7.7 centimeters. How much taller did she get altogether? Altogether. Does that mean add or subtract? I'd say all together means you're putting something together. You're adding them together. So we're going to go ahead and do that problem in our notes. So that would be 4.62 plus 7.7. So go ahead and do that. Remember, you have to annex a 0. And I'll let you go ahead. Or you can pause it. 2 plus 0 is 2. 7 plus 6 is 13. Keep my decimal, carry the 1. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12.32 what? 12.32 pounds. Nope, wrong. That was the jelly bean thing. we're on to how much she grew. So it's 12.32 centimeters. Yeah, there's going to be mistakes sometimes, but I usually catch them and correct them. Hopefully you are able to do this problem. You're going to have 10 these problems in this homework assignment. There's 10, 5 of which are word problems and 5 are just flat out computation. Keep up the good work. This is due tomorrow, so it's not due until Thursday, and the time doesn't matter. So some of you accidentally looked like you had done work late because the time came up at 7 o'clock in the morning. It meant 7 o'clock at night. So don't worry about anything being late. Just make sure it's in sometime the next day. Okay, so this homework needs to be in sometime Thursday. Otherwise, it'll be considered late. But late is better than a 0. All right, take care. Good job, guys.